We are going to have a Q&A at the end, I should say. So keep your questions, write them down, throw them in the Q&A if you want, and then we'll get to them at the very end when time allotted. I've gone ahead and kind of 45 minutes here, but we can go over a little bit too if need be. But if you have to go, not a problem. All right, cultivating community. We wanted to talk about this because we talk about it a lot on our success team, and we talk about it a lot as gym owners. Greg and Michelle both still have gyms. I've had a couple gyms myself in the Minnesota region. Michelle's in New Jersey and Greg in the Chicago area. So we are talking about community a lot, engaging members, helping owners engage their membership. So we want to do a small webinar on this and talk a little bit about how we look at it at PushPress and as gym owners of PushPress that use the software. So first off, I just want to talk about the North Star metric. Dan, our CEO, has done talks on this many times at different events in person, HSN most recently, and some CrossFit events. But North Star metric is a term that companies use as a focal point for their business to focus on, basically a business metric they can try to align around. Now, PushPress, we specifically find checking in your clients to be our North Star metric, and that's really part of the conversation today will be initially about checking in clients and such, not just as a plug, obviously, to use our software and tools, but more importantly, it was one that we picked as a company because it relates so well with our clients, yourselves, gym owners, and ourselves as gym owners, because it's a way for us to track things. So when we think about the North Star metric, the first idea is the decisions that you make in a gym are creating value, connection, consistency with your membership and your staff. And these lead to a focus, basically, of clarity around your mission as a gym, mission as a business, more importantly, maybe the values that you have. And this can then lead to an outcome that is valuing the client and will increase your business goals based on, could be revenue. Obviously, check-ins are one that we associate with engagement because clients are coming to your classes and actually taking your services versus somebody that doesn't. And that's going to increase revenue in a few different ways. One would be obviously them as an individual client doing an unlimited membership versus the 3 times a week. They need to come more often. They're engaged. They're excited to come, which also leads to an increase in revenue for you as a business owner. And if they're also doing the check-ins and coming a lot, that means that they're probably talking about it. So they're talking to their friends, family, their circles, and this could also bring in revenue as well. And we'll talk about that a little bit in some of our tactics and strategies later on with Greg and Michelle. But first one I want to talk about and get it out in the air is member check-ins. This is a measurable activity. You need to think about whatever your North Star metric is for your gym, which I would recommend member check-ins as the first component. It needs to be measurable and trackable. Otherwise, what are we doing, right? We don't know. We need a baseline and understanding. So it's kind of the circular motion of, if the outcome is being successful based on the decisions and focus that you've created, it's going to continue. So that's a North Star metric. That's the one I'm going to talk about initially. It's a check-in process, right? So thinking about how you basically have your process around a North Star metric, like a check-in. When I think about defining a process for something that I want to execute on, I look at the client journey and define it basically with a lead to the first call to action, to the secondary call to action to monetize that lead into a actual member. And then of course, when they become an X member. So the client journey from start to finish, if you haven't defined that, it's a really great option to do that with your GM, your general manager, maybe even your coaches in general, and whiteboard it out at your gym, or make a kind of a map, a physical map, and break it down step by step in this process. What is it exactly? And it's so often me and Michelle and Greg talk to owners that haven't even defined the client journey or have a couple different ideas, right? They haven't really focused in. So again, getting back to, you need to make decisions of the client journey and focus in on a process that you're going to execute for a certain time to see if the outcomes are in line with what your goals are. So write it down, build it into your mission, your vision as a company. There's always a good, better, best. Don't always look for best. Write it down, but obviously you start from where you are. This is the desired outcome would be good. Even better would be this. Even the best would be this. That's another option of breaking it down. And the tools to track this, obviously, PushPress. You guys, most of you in this are PushPress clients. So use the PushPress tools, the tracking systems, the intake process of check-ins, which I'll get to in a second, and then also the reporting on it. And this can really drive ultimately you from a kind of a startup business to a more mature business, defined business that you know exactly what's going on. So this is not fun stuff. It ain't glamorous, but it's really important, right? To take on. Now, the user experience is once you've built that roadmap, that process, and basically the client's journey and how you want it to look and feel, you got to go into the user experience. And a lot of times we overlook this. We stick it into our own gyms, right? We get so busy at our own gyms. Go to a local gym, maybe not a competitor, but somebody that's doing a gym service in the area, and see how their user experience is. You can also just do it based on, going out to eat or other businesses that have a hospitality element, and how does that make you feel, and taking those things, be open to experiencing and taking what is going on in the world as you as a consumer and bring it back to what you like into your own business. So often we get stuck in our own businesses and don't look for inspiration or from others. So the user experience in a gym, often for check-ins when a client comes in, a lot of times they'll just walk in and they'll start talking to each other, which is awesome and excellent. But they do need to, if you want to track, you want to hit while the iron's hot, they're walking in, and hit them with a way for them to check in so you can get that information into a system to report on. Often we overlook this, and maybe they get segued to something else. Having a kiosk set up on an iPad or tablet with the staff app, which is our new released app on that kiosk, is so important. Now, I had two kiosks. I had one for my drop-ins, my trials, and my store app, and then I had one that was dedicated just to checking in. So they knew exactly what to do before they sit down, take their shoes off and jackets. They went right to the kiosk. This is a really great option. It is sometimes a little aggressive because they have to just go to the kiosk and do it, and it feels very kind of regulated, but it's really important because it does give you that information at the end of the month or even week for that client. The staff app is something that the coaches can have, that you as a coach in the class can have, and as they walk in, if you don't have a kiosk, the staff member could do it. Now the cons here is that the staff member's on their phone. It doesn't create a very good user experience. So what I did is I had my kiosk at my gym. They check in with that, and I built that habit in them. And at the end of the class, the staff member, the coach of the class, would do a clean sweep on anybody that, Sandra comes in running late for the class, just throws down all this stuff and goes right into class. Now that happens often, and they forget to actually check in because they're running behind. So having a staff member clean sweep it and building that into your processes, SOPs and such, is really important. And then finally, the member app. This is my least favorite because members are doing a lot of things, and they don't think about your business first and foremost on tracking their activity. So they're going to forget. They can check in on the member app, of course. It's nice because it allows, there's certain types of members that want to do it themselves and they want to do it on their phone. It was really great for COVID to keep it device separation. The con there is, I've found, at least in my experience, Michelle, Greg probably too, they don't always check themselves in. So having 3 different options, super important. The first 2, obviously, front and center, and taking that into your experience. So I hope that makes sense. It's a little redundant maybe for some of you, are probably doing one of these 3 or maybe all 3. But it's always a good moment to take a moment and talk about it again as a staff and as a business. And that leads me to staff training. Yes, monthly meetings, if you're not doing them, that's fine. I know a lot of you have part-time coaches, maybe monthly's too often. Once a quarter, well, every 3 months is another option. I would hold monthly, and then obviously a bigger one on the quarter at my gyms. And this is really just about holding that standard, whatever process or defined value that you are trying to implement in your business. You're holding that standard, and be repetitive. Like, humans don't get it the first time always. We got to get it the second, the third, and you got to remind them. So even if check-ins is something that's been done before, it's always good to bring it up and talk about the value that it provides you as an owner, and it provides the client to understand how are they engaged in the service and the product. And educate your staff on the training of the tech tools that you use, the PushPress tools, the staff app, the kiosk, the process. Too often we do it once and then we just move on to the next thing. We don't talk about it again. So in your next monthly meeting, make sure to make this a priority of going over old processes that have maybe been forgotten. If you redefine something, obviously update them and educate the staff, because they are truly the coaches are truly the most engaging element of your gym, because they're part of the class, right? And the actual service. All right. So let me see any chat. I see a couple chats came up just telling us where you're from. Count blocks. Okay, cool. Yeah, great motivator. I love it. Okay. We're going to talk about tactics next, actually. So I'm going to pass this over to Michelle.
Awesome. Kevin, are you able to slide forward for me to the next
Oh my
slide?
gosh, I am so able to do that. Let me just whoop, there it is.
All right, let's talk about some specific ways we can create that engagement, right? So we all know that retention is a big piece as far as the overall health and the growth of the gym's business. Part of that means keeping your members engaged. So the more that members feel connected to each other, the more that they feel connected to you, the more likely it is that they're going to stay. And I like to call that connected feeling stickiness. So a great way to create that stickiness is through something called a committed club. And this club really just encourages and celebrates members to stay consistent with their workouts, but it does it in a sort of fun and gamified way. So on this slide on the right, there's a good example of a committed club here. I like this for a few reasons. It's simple, easy to understand, easy to get out. So how do you implement that at your own gym? So first would obviously be define the program itself. So make sure that you have it written out so it's easy for people to follow. You have whatever benchmarks it is that people are going to need to hit clearly defined so there's no confusion. From there, you want to make sure that you communicate the guidelines not only to the members but to your staff and your coaches as well. So going back to those staff meetings that Gavin had mentioned, make sure that you review this information with your coaches so that everybody's on the same page, they know what the intention is, and if there's any expectations on their end, they understand that as well. From the member standpoint, there's a few different ways you can communicate this out. Obviously, you can make some announcements at the beginning of class. It's kind of more probably just to let people know, hey, this is coming down the pike. If you have an internal Facebook group or you send monthly newsletters, that's a great place to drop in the details so everybody has a copy of it. They can refer back to it if they need to. The next part of this is going to be spotlighting your clients, right? So as members are hitting that benchmark, in this case, this program is 15 classes per month. So as people are doing that, you want to make sure that you're celebrating their wins and highlighting members accordingly. And again, you can do that at the start of class. I would highly recommend having coaches and you as well, when you can, reach out directly to the members to let them know that you see them, you see their commitment, you're celebrating their success. Again, using like social media is another great way to spotlight those members. Not only does it help them feel great, but it's also a great way to attract new people into the gym as well. And then if you are sending that monthly newsletter, dropping in the committed club people in there is always helpful too. And then the last piece of this is just stay consistent, right? Now, this particular example has an annual club. You don't necessarily have to run it for, a full year. And if it's something you're just starting, maybe you just do it for a quarter just to kind of get your bearings and see how things go. Whatever time frame you're ultimately choosing, you just want to make sure that you're staying consistent in terms of tracking members and then spotlighting them. So make sure that your coaches and you are reaching out. Make sure that you're including them in that internal Facebook group and the newsletter, and keep those highlights going so people feel recognized and appreciated for all their hard work. And that's it for the committee club. Oh, other thing I was going to mention, someone dropped into the chat with the newer version of the members app, right? The merged app, it has that awesome count on the very home screen when a member logs in that will show them what their current attendance is, which is something I started even tracking. So pretty cool there, and ties in very easily to this committed club.
You're using the software?
Using it every day.
Using it every day? I'm
Every
amazed.
day.
I'm
Yeah.
amazed. Annual. I've never thought of annual. That's such a
Neither
it's
have I.
that's a lot.
Yeah.
But I love we're coming up at the end of the year here. So maybe instead
Yeah.
of doing monthly or quarterly, since it's the end of the year almost, dude, you can pull that report from the whole year if you've been tracking check-ins, but not doing a committed
Yeah.
club. I love that.
I've
All right,
also
what's
seen some really cool ways that people will track, or not track, but like post the committed club. So I know some gym owners have had like really nice boards made up that they actually have as people are
yeah.
going into the gym. And they'll put each board is kind of a different tier of that committed club. I know another gym owner that does badges. And so as they get further and further into their consistency, and maybe, month over month, they continue to hit 12 classes, 15
Yeah.
classes, whatever the benchmark is, they kind of graduate from one badge to another one, that
I
they
mean,
can put on their
that's
bag or something like that.
yeah, that's intense. I mean, there's a little bit of production to
Yeah.
be had, but I think
Yeah.
go to Pinterest, get some Pinterest in inspo, and like,
Yeah.
and then
Get
again, like I
creative.
said, other companies do this too. I was at a diner and they had their list of how many shakes they've done for the month. Like it's just like these cute little things that companies can do. And this is no different. So awesome. All right, Greg, what do you got for community events?
Beautiful. So one of the cool things about our team over here at PushPress, guys, is we get to talk to tons of gym owners all the time. So we've seen community events, big, small, everything in between, all types of events. Obviously, PushPress, we work with a lot of CrossFit or CrossFit style gyms. So some of these are a little bit in that vein, but those of us who are here, I saw a Muay Thai gym and a Jiu-Jitsu gym come through. We're definitely going to hit on some stuff that you guys can even do too. When it comes to your gym, obviously check-ins are first and foremost. We want to make sure our people are checking in, but we also want to make sure we have a place where they want to come to and check in, right? So that's where our community events come in. First, we have our fitness events. Those of us who are in the CrossFit space, I'm sure most of us, if not all of us, run some type of Murph event. Other events we've seen within kind of that fitness sphere are partner WODs. I personally run a partner workout every Saturday at my facility. One of the most highly attended classes. People love it. They get their workout buddy, their battle buddy, some people will call it, and then that builds that camaraderie and builds that accountability to have people who are checking up on your other members, right? So taking some of that work off your plate, even having to follow up with Sally, who hasn't been to class in a week, when we know Becky, who's her workout partner on Saturday, is going to actually be like, hey, you coming to Saturday? Right? So now we're taking stuff off our plates, which is huge. Other things we've seen in the fitness event type space are community workouts. I know someone else on our team, Rudy, he does a first Saturday type workout that's an open workout to the community that anybody can come to, which again is great because we can get our community involved. Maybe we have that brother or sister who's wanted to come to our gym for a long time of a member, but they just quite won't pull the trigger. That's a great way to get them in the door. Maybe even potentially build a lead pipeline for you guys, which is obviously great as well. Moving from fitness, other things we can look at. Holiday type events. So Christmas party is always a big one, right? Things I like to do around our Christmas party would be something like a philanthropy endeavor, whether it's a food drive, a local charity. If you really, really want to get the membership engaged, we can gamify that, right? So we can set some teams together, whichever team brings the most canned foods for XYZ event. Other team has to do burpees. I generally find that my community prefers to punish me than each other. So we've even done something along the lines of, hey, every canned food that is brought, I, as the coach, will do 5 burpees or a burpee per canned food. And then I'll create a time lapse and throw it up on the Instagram for me doing tons of burpees, which, if you know me, I am not a fan of burpees, but I do it for a good cause. From there, kind of along the same vein as our holiday season, holiday party type thing, we can look at gym anniversaries or gym birthdays. In the CrossFit space, that 5 and 10 year mark is usually a pretty big one. So I've seen some really cool, like almost wedding size events around gym birthdays when we're getting to that 10-year mark. That will allow, again, just engagement with your people, get them in the space or in other spaces together where they're just having fun, right? Most of us in the fitness space have that work hard, play hard mentality. So, like, nothing wrong with let's hit a hard workout, let's do something fun, and let's go grab a beer, right? People love that stuff. You don't have to make it harder than it needs to be. And that's kind of what we're going to get into next. So let's go to the next slide. Bam. All right. So community events and size. With this, most of us always tend to think large scale. Like, if I'm not doing something big, is it worth my time? If I'm not doing something big, I don't get half of my members there, is it worth it? And the answer is, it is worth it, right? We should be doing large, small, and even micro events, right? There's no reason that you as a gym owner need to bring all that burden on yourself of planning these events either. So something as simple as your large events, I tend to like to see gyms put that on a yearly or bi-yearly cadence. So again, if you know you have a giant holiday party around Christmas, that could be one of your events, and we want to hit another one in the summer. Very easy CrossFit breakdown for gyms is Murph and Christmas, right? About 6 months apart, give or take, and you're doing something big. Use those events you already have in place to expand that reach. So, for example, as we can see here, one of my coaches, Mark, is sitting in an ice bath. For my Murph event this year, we actually rented a mobile sauna as well as an ice bath for before and or after the event. And I thought, like, okay, this could be a big money dump. Do I really want to do this? But I had such great feedback from the community of, no one else is doing this. This is amazing. Like, we need to do this all the time, which cost wise, we're not going to do it all the time, but maybe one day. But again, just had a really big impact on something we do all the time and just brought it to the next level. You don't have to do more events. Do the events you're already doing better, right? Again, save yourself some time, save yourself some work. From there, going from our large events down to more of like a small event type thing, I like to see here a monthly or a bi-monthly cadence for the gyms that I work with who are really focusing on that community engagement. And again, these can be super small. It doesn't have to be half your membership base. It can be 10, 20 people who just go grab some drinks, go bowling, go play mini golf, something that's very easy off-site. All you have to do as the member or as the gym owner is coordinate this, right? All you're doing is you're going into your member app, you're dropping it on your social feed and saying, hey, we're going to be here on this day. If you can make it, come by. We'd love to have everybody, right? And if we want to take this a step further of being smart with our time and not adding stress, you're going to have people in your community who are already doing these things together. So let's take those people, bring them kind of in-house on our team and say, hey, Gavin, Michelle, I know you guys are going out for beers on Friday. Let's make this a gym thing, right? Let's throw it on the community page. Let's say, hey, everybody wants to meet up, come hang out, right? Take that stuff off your plate, give it to a member, give it to a coach who's super engaged, and have them just do these little meetups that will have big impact down the road. Don't add stress to your plate. You guys do enough. Your events should be fun. Don't make them a stressful part of your job.
They should
That's
be
it for
fun.
me on this one.
They should,
Yes, they should be fun.
So it reminds me of when the community that I had was using other events in this. We were in Minneapolis, so some towns don't have as much going on, maybe as Minneapolis or bigger cities, but there's always like a trivia night. There's always a trivia night, or there's a bowling, alley. Yeah. Use the environment and overhead that those other events are doing and just participate, and go there. And you being there for not all of them, but certainly some of your coaches going, having some representation of the gym makes it feel like a gym event, but it's not really a gym event. So like
Yep.
I always used other people's already pre-created events, cannibalized them a little bit. So
Work smarter, not harder.
yes.
Feedback loop. All right. I actually love that I got this slide because I am a big fan of gathering feedback from members. But every time I make a suggestion to my partner at the gym that we should send out a survey or try and get some feedback, she usually makes a very scared and disapproving look on her face. So, but the reality is, as owners, it's important to collect actionable feedback from our members. It helps us keep a pulse on how things are going. But it also gives us opportunities to use information for additional growth, right? So let's talk about some ways that you can do that at the gym. The first is going to be Google reviews. This is probably a little bit more external and for incoming members, but reviews give you the chance to really establish credibility with prospective clients, essentially by showcasing the experiences that current or past members have had with the gym. Recently, we also launched a tool called Gym Happy, which makes that process fast and convenient for owners, not only to collect that feedback, but also to increase the overall number of Google reviews that you have. As a side note and a quick plug, Gym Happy also has some functionality for committed clubs as well, which is another great feature of that. So if you're not familiar with Gym Happy, feel free to connect with us afterwards to get some details and next steps on that program. The second one here is QT with current members, which is quality time. So I don't know about you guys, but at the end of class, I usually have at least 3, 4, 5 people that are standing in a circle or a line waiting to come and talk to me. Either they have a question, they want to share some kind of story with me, which is great. I may not always have the time to get into a conversation. I have the next class or have to run to the next thing. But members want to hear from you and they want to sit down and have conversations with you. And making the time to do that is integral, I think, to the retention of the gym. So some ways that you can do that, obviously small conversations at the start and the end of class are great, but also carving out some time to do that virtually, either through Zoom, or you can do it quarterly. We like to do goal review sessions with our members at least once a quarter. Not everybody takes advantage of it, but certainly the people that, feel like they want to take the time to sit down with us and go over their goals or whatever is challenging them, or have some kind of feedback about the gym and the experience, are going to make sure that they take that time with you, and they're going to appreciate that you're making the effort to do that with them. You can also do these quarterly through digital outreach, and we'll get to that in a minute. One thing I wanted to point out in terms of, taking the time to check in with clients, I find that it's especially valued by some of our long-term members, right? So they're kind of beyond the days of newbie PRs and gains, and their priorities as far as fitness and maybe the experience they want from the gym may have changed a little bit. And it's good to understand from them, like, what are they looking for now when it comes to the gym and the experience, because it may be totally different from somebody that's just getting started with you, and you want to find a way to kind of appease the masses, as challenging as that can be, but make sure that everybody's getting a little bit of what they like so they feel seen and heard and valued. The last one here is going to be surveys. This is a great way of gathering feedback quickly, and that way you can use that information to improve things like systems and processes or just the overall gym experience. I'm a big fan of building guardrails into surveys, right? So you don't necessarily want it to be a free-for-all where people are just dumping anything and everything on you, but maybe you're considering launching a new program or you want to make a change to the schedule. That's a great place where you can solicit that feedback very easily and see sort of what the consensus is and whether it lines up with what you're thinking and feeling as the owner. I would highly recommend anytime you send a survey out to include what we call the Net Promoter Score. Basically, that just is a very quick measurement of the overall loyalty that your members have with you and with the gym. If you're not familiar with it, you can very easily Google it. Certainly any of us can help you incorporate that into the survey as well, but it does a good job of helping you to keep a pulse on where things are at with the gym. If you have a CRM system, or if you have our PushPress Grow platform, sending out surveys there is super easy, very convenient. You can schedule it to go out, you can send it right away. If you don't happen to have a system like that, there's still some other ways you can get that done with something like MailChimp. You can honestly even create a survey simply through a Google form and send that out just through good old email, so you can still, find ways of collecting that information and that feedback from your members.
Yeah, and you definitely get a lot of feedback verbally, like you said, with that quality time. A lot of times we have those conversations and fill out have a survey or input place for you to put those thoughts from that member into a document of some sort, so you can refer back to it, because you won't remember it all. And then you talk
Yeah.
about that's kind of your voice of the customer, what your pulse on the customer is, and during your staff meetings, pick some of the good ones, maybe some of the not so good ones, but
Yeah.
give some feedback to the coaches, make them feel included as well. Very important. Awesome, Michelle. Yeah,
I,
Jim
I'd
Happy
also,
is. Mhm.
oh, sorry. Well, I was
No,
going to
you.
say a couple other things. I would also recommend, like, even for the goal review sessions, have some guardrails in place for that too, right? We have a sheet that we use for every single person that has 4 or 5 questions on it. So it kind of guides the conversation. It still gives them the opportunity to give us feedback, but it's a little bit focused, so we can understand, like, what are their goals, what are their challenges. There is a spot if they want to give kind of open-ended feedback as well. The other thing that we do that I think is particularly helpful in building connections and gathering feedback from a coach standpoint, every quarter we have our coaches, they're required to reach out to, usually they're on kind of a consistent schedule with the classes they teach. So at one point during the quarter, let's say, I always teach the 5, the 6, and the 9 a.m. I make sure that I reach out to all of those members that are attending those classes one-on-one. I do that through Grow because it's just a very simple way to do that. And I just ask them, how are things going? How are you feeling? But I make sure that I'm taking that time as an individual rather than sending something out as a group and in mass, so that they feel like, okay, this, they're taking the time to just invest in me personally. And we also have our coaching staff do that as well.
Okay, cool. Well, for time's sake, I'm going to bop to the next one for Greg. What else?
All right. So, kind of going off of what Michelle was talking about in terms of surveys and gathering feedback, I think that segues really well into goal-oriented programs. With our goal-oriented programs, a couple ways we can do this: seminars, 8-week programs or 8-week challenges, and then even setting up our programming within the gym to kind of follow an 8-week cadence. Where most of us with strength and conditioning backgrounds, we're probably kind of doing that already. But we can use that to further engage our clients. So for example, let's say we sent out a survey to our members saying, hey, what's something you guys want to learn about, right? What's an education piece we can bring to you, whether it's your Olympic lifting, we go the jiu-jitsu route, maybe they all want to learn guard passing or leg locking. They want to learn a higher level gymnastic skills if they're CrossFitters, right? It's a really great way to tap a subject matter expert within your staff you already have, even not yourself, to bring kind of a higher level, deeper work that sometimes is difficult to do within class, especially in a big setting. Usually with your seminars, you'll probably see a little bit less of a show versus your regular classes, which is fine because it's going to be a more targeted approach. But again, just providing value there to your members, to something they're very, very passionate about or want to learn about, is a great touch point that a lot of gyms are not doing. I feel like it's really low-hanging fruit. Then from there, we can look at an 8-week program. I myself am not a huge challenge guy. I do not like writing challenges, like nutrition challenges, that type of thing, because generally I see it's hard to keep people engaged over those 8 weeks. But I do like to do is make sure that my programming is on a consistent cadence, whether it's 4 or 6 or 8 weeks. And at the beginning, middle, and end of my cycle, we are checking in with those members to see, this is the reason we are programming like this. This is what you can expect to see over the next 8 weeks. Halfway through, we're doing XYZ as a test. And at the end, we're doing a retest from whatever we did week 1. And again, opens up a great opportunity for us to have a touch point with those clients, keep them engaged, and then even set up for like some of that quality time Michelle was talking about of, hey, so and so, you were here only half of this Olympic lifting cycle. So yeah, that's why your snatch didn't go up. How can we help you get in the gym more, right? How do we boost that North Star metric of more check-ins, right? So again, I prefer doing it more on that programming style side of things, but 8-week challenges can be great too, depending on your community. If you can get that community buy-in to do, the nutrition challenge, definitely go for those as well. They can be very successful.
Cool. Yeah, we always did that. Always strength focus, or a movement focus, every month even.
Yeah.
Okay, so to wrap this up, thank you guys for presenting on that. I know all of you have busy lives and coaches and coaching classes and such, but last thing I want to talk about was your approach. And this goes back to tip 1. What is your current process? Think about what you're doing now, and don't take all these ideas that we just talked about. Maybe these are more than likely you thought of these. They're not, we're not breaking the mold of engagement by any means, but what are you doing now? What have you done this last year? And then if you can take what you're doing, is it working or not working? And be honest with yourself. Ask your coaches. Look at the event, check in, how many people came. If you didn't even check in for that event, how many people came? We don't know, right? So start changing those processes. And then what's your bandwidth as an owner, GM? Look to your community to help, like with events, like Greg mentioned. Looks for software to help, like Michelle said, with her surveys and such. You can reach out to us, obviously, and talk through that as well. You can tell that we have experience in this industry, so it's not like you're just talking to a hired hand at PushPress. We have lots of actual gym application. So bandwidth is really important, and that goes with tip 2, move slow. So move slow to move fast kind of thing. This doesn't have to be all done today. And don't do an event, run a survey, do revamp all of your client journey and check-ins. Pick one that you think is most relevant or prioritized, or that you just want to enjoy doing. Like maybe you like events, but you just don't have enough time. Then let's focus on events. Or you hate events and you just want to work on some surveys and some follow-up. You're more of a one-on-one person. So understand your business, what North Star metric you want to check. We recommend check-ins as a good one to just start. If you haven't done that, if you are doing that, then obviously associate that check-in to monthly revenue, and see how events and surveys and things can influence that North Star metric. So tools to use, obviously the staff app, CRM like Grow, our PushPress software has lots of different options. It's not just a plug for that, though. There's lots of great companies out there with different tools. Certainly, a CRM is a customer relationship management tool. So a way for you to categorize your clientele and message with them and communicate with them. Sorry, Jake. Yeah, it's a little bit of a industry acronym, but your staff members is a really great place. They already are there. Work with them to execute your mission and vision, and then consult with a mentor, like obviously Two Brain mentorships out there, Best Hour of Your Day, lots of different mentorships. Stu Brower from WTF Gym Talk has been on PushStart before. There's mentors in the space, but there's also success reps at PushPress, and we're not a huge cost. We're actually part of your subscription, and we'll do a few calls with you, talk through things, and brainstorm. So before jumping into a big, high and invasive mentorship to revamp everything, sometimes just have a call with me, Greg, or Michelle is a great starting point. So we're going to open up the Q&A for a few minutes here. I know we're running over a little bit. If you have to bounce, not a problem. I know a couple of you did, but we have one question from an anonymous attendee. Ooh, anonymous.
Serious.
Is quality time an open style or one-on-one coach or a member? Michelle, what is that?
It could be a little bit of both, and I think use some context around it. So I have I have a client of mine that wanted to get feedback from their members, but right now he's kind of wearing all the hats in the gym, and so he doesn't really have the bandwidth to be able to sit down one-on-one with every member and take the time to do that. So we sort of pivoted away and say, okay, let's maybe start off with something digital, send out a survey or something like that. And go that route until maybe you have a little bit more staff on hand where you can start to do those sit downs one-on-one and have conversations. If you are, in terms of doing it more like open, I think a good example of that would be, so at one point at my gym, we went away from what I would call classic CrossFit, right? And that style of training and those workouts, we just had a different set of values as the gym evolved, and that was going to be reflected in the programming that we were doing. And we wanted our members to understand like why we were making that shift and to have the opportunity to ask us questions, but to do it in one fell swoop. So instead of having to manage that over the course of a month, all these different people, it was easier for us to just hold a single town hall where we went over like what was changing, why it was changing, why we felt this was going to be beneficial for them, and then what kinds of questions did they have. So it was QT, but in a little bit of a different setting. And in that instance, we just did it as a group and invited everyone to come out. That way we were all on the same page and we could get it done, as I said, just at one time.
I did those, yeah, those open forum kind of announcements and things that are changing. I always try to pair them with something. We did a storytelling event once where
I
gym
love that.
gym members could share stories. And we actually had a couple of people from a local storytelling um, crew come in and kind of do. So we had a couple people that really told really good stories, and then some of the members got inspired and told the story, and it was amazing. It was very emotional. But we also made sure to talk about announcements about the gym every single time, having a
Yeah.
intro outro. So open forums, make them fun though, right? It's not just
Yeah.
there's a meeting. Um, let's see here. We got Jake. We can set up a call with you after. We will reach out. One of us will reach out. How successful are recognizing 50, 120, 250, 500, and 1,000 class benchmarks and awarding prizes at these levels? You guys done benchmark classes, like not just attendance, but certain amounts?
I haven't done it
Um,
yet at mine, Greg.
I have not done that. I do know that is a pretty popular thing that Orange Theory does. I know Orange Theory makes a really big deal, and then also Peloton of when people do certain number of rides, they'll give them shout outs on the rides, potentially send them a shirt or a prize increasing in value as they do more classes. Um, in terms of a specific gym that I've worked with, I don't know of any, but I think it is a great idea. Obviously, we can take from Orange Theory; they have really good member retention, and those gyms are booming. So if it's working for them, I'd say it's definitely worth a shot. With the 1,000 class mark, that's obviously a ton. So I'm looking to really wow with that prize and make it something that people are really striving for sure. But I like the idea a lot.
There you go. Katie and Brendan both do it, and they say it works well. I mean, proof's in the pudding of people that are actually doing it out there. You just got to be consistent with it, I think, especially, and communicate it. Um, yes, we can get more information on Jim Happy now. Here's a fun one. Spotify at the end of the year does a year in review, kind of a breakdown of your most listened to. Mine's completely ruined because my Spotify was connected to Jim. So we got a lot of the same hits.
That is so
But
funny.
now I've not been an owner for a while, so mine's re-regulated. But there's nothing built in the product like that. But we do work on PushPress has been working on engagement reporting and things like that, right? So if what I would say in your review, like Spotify, what is what information do you think is relevant to your review? And let us know in a call or shoot it over in an email, and we can kind of think about that as our product team starts to develop more reporting. It probably won't be just like a year in review interface. It'll be probably different metrics that you could then take together and isolate. I assume this would be based on a member individually and then communicate that to them in their one-on-ones or somehow. Like an image to see. Yeah, definitely would be cool. I do not believe that is in the works at the moment, but what we do on Success is take the voice of the customer, you guys, what you guys are thinking about, feeling, and bubble it up to the product team. So definitely we'll pass this along. That's a kind of a cool idea and definitely an engaging interface. So let's see here. Oh, great. Look at that. You guys are just talking to each other. That's so cute. I love it. That's the point of these. I love it. We are at time, so I'm going to probably have to stop this. But if you guys do want to call with us on the success team to talk through some engagement practices and strategies, definitely fill out the survey after this. It'll be sent out, and just say, yes, I want a success call, and we will reach out to schedule some time in the coming weeks. And obviously, please join our Facebook group if you're not already a PushPress Facebook group. You have to be obviously a client. So if you're not a client, first get our software, and then you can join. But that we do a lot of announcements about upcoming webinars and digital events and product updates in that community page. And it's a great place to also talk to each other as gym owners. If you have issues with the app, obviously I streamline those to the in-app chat in the bottom right versus the community page if possible, because then our support team will see it right away. I appreciate you guys all swinging through. Greg, Michelle, I'll see you guys soon, I'm sure. But this has been wonderful.
Yeah.
What a
Awesome.
great way to start my day and morning. Great
Agreed.
questions. Great stuff. All right, y'all. Take it, go take this stuff and put it into practice.